Mormon theology throws down a pretty bold idea. God the Father started as a mortal, became a god, and came from an endless line of gods, each one with their own cosmic dad, in an infinite Who's Your Daddy loop that never actually begins. I'm not kidding. According to Mormon apostle Orson Pratt, this chain of divine ancestry stretches infinitely into the past. But St. Thomas Aquinas crushed this idea centuries before Mormonism with his cosmological argument, making it collapse like a house of cards. Aquinas' argument isn't some dusty relic from the 13th century, it's a surgical strike against any worldview that relies on infinite regress. Let's zoom in on Aquinas' argument for motion, the first of his 5 ways. Here's the gist. Premise 1. Things in the universe are in motion. Premise 2. Everything in motion is moved by something else. Premise 3. There cannot be an infinite regress of movers. Conclusion, therefore, there must be a first mover unmoved by anything else. Aquinas was pointing out something profound. Change doesn't explain itself. If something changes, whether it's a rock falling, a leaf growing, or a god being begotten, it's because something caused that change. And that chain of causes can't go on forever. Why? Well, an infinite regress is just philosophical procrastination. You're explaining motion by appealing to another motion, and another, without ever grounding it in something that doesn't need to be moved. Now, let's apply this to Mormon theology. The idea of an infinite chain of gods, each one caused or begotten by the one before, falls apart under Aquinas' logic. Here's why. First, an infinite chain of movers explains nothing. If every god in Mormon theology depends on a previous god for its existence, the chain never arrives at a starting point. It's like trying to explain why a train is moving by pointing to an infinite line of boxcars. Unless there's an engine at the front, that train isn't going anywhere. The second problem with Mormon theology is it gives you no ultimate source of existence. Each god in the Mormon chain is contingent, meaning their existence depends on something else. But you can't stack an infinite number of contingent beings and expect them to exist without something necessary grounding the chain. It's like trying to build a house of cards without a table. It collapses without a foundation. The third problem is motion requires an unmoved mover. Aquinas argued that all change or all motion ultimately points back to something that doesn't change, a being whose existence and action aren't caused by something else. The Mormon view of God doesn't give us this. Instead, it offers an infinite string of dependent beings without ever identifying the necessary uncaused that starts it all. Here's the brilliance of Aquinas' argument. It points to a God who isn't just one link in a cosmic chain, but an unmoved mover at the top of all reality. This God doesn't need a cause because his very nature is existence itself. He's pure actuality, no potential, no changes, no dependencies. In other words, he's nothing like the Mormon vision of a God who needed a father to make him divine. Mormon theology asks you to believe in absurdities, but Aquinas debunked it 800 years ago.